Hello everyone, this is PK Entertainment and we are back again, and here now we have another movie review which is a special film for me, and that really fits into both categories of my movie review series, covering my most favourite films ever and also movies that I feel were unrated and underappreciated post their release. And this film that we are talking about is the extremely powerful and compelling apartheid drama The Power of One. Released on the 27th of March 1992, this amazing film stars Stephen Dorff, Morgan Freeman, John Gielgud, Armin Mueller Stahl and Daniel Craig, and it was directed by John G. Avildsen, and it's a loose adaptation of the revered novel by Bryce Courtney. Now the story and setup within The Power of One is that we are set in the early to mid to late 1930s South African regions in the beginning stages of World War II, where we followed the story of a young man named Peter Phillips, who's referenced as PK throughout this film, and following his mother being ill, he's sent to a boarding school where he's picked on and bullied by South African students because of his English heritage, linking back to the Boer Wars in which the South Africans deemed the English responsible. After enduring a vicious attack, he is taken away by his grandfather and later on put under the mentorship and tutelage of a German pianist named Doc Fullerstein, played by Armin Mueller Stahl, and he is shortly put under house arrest during the World War II, and during his house arrest he introduces PK to certain African inmates within a prison. The main prison inmates that he built a connection with is Gielgud, who is played by Morgan Freeman, and through his relationship with Gielgud he learns how to box and also witnesses the brutal treatment of the African prisoners. Sympathising with their plight, he helps aid them in building tobacco and also transferring communication outside of the prison, and through his relationship he also learns the meaning of freedom, identity and finding a purpose in life. These lessons serve him well when he's in his early stages as a teenager, where he looks to make a difference in Johannesburg by teaching English to the African people. Yet his ongoing influence is met with both opposition and antagonism from apartheid forces and eventually figures from his past. Now for me, The Power of One is an immense and extremely powerful and sincere movie full of extreme highs of emotion and gravitas. The story as we follow through PK's journey is both engrossing and captivating throughout. We cover so many themes throughout the film, including victimization, racism, symbolism, love story, revolution and anti-establishment. This movie handles all of these themes so well. I've always stated multiple times that the best movies are the ones that operate on different levels in terms of its subject matter, and The Power of One is a great example of this. There are so many moments throughout this film that are both triumphant and at the same time very difficult to watch. These include scenes where we see PK being bullied on multiple times by students, the brutal treatment of the African prisoners, and these scenes really hit you in the heart and provoke so much emotion and reaction when you know that this really reflects real life events. There are some shocking moments of violence throughout this movie which also make an impact, but there are also heartfelt moments of positivity and also high levels of euphoria, and these are scenes where we see particularly PK orchestrating the musical choir within the African prison, and we get a great sequence where we see them singing a song that PK has written for them, and it truly is a standout sequence throughout the film. There are also sequences where we see PK travelling along on the rivers and looking at a waterfall with the rainbow appearing, really again coming to terms with what his life means. Other touching moments include where he's teaching English to the African students, and also another standout scene is when he's fighting in a boxing match and he's heralded as the Rainmaker, essentially the savior of the people, and all of these scenes and moments really hit the heart and are so impactful throughout the entire movie. Now this type of emotional and powerful movie shouldn't be surprising, given from director John G. Avildsen, who directed two of the most cultural movies within cinema, in both Rocky in 1976 and later on The Karate Kid in 1984. And like those movies, we really show the concept of an underdog constantly facing adversity and overcoming the odds through learning to fight and use those abilities to make a positive difference. And as with those two movies, The Power of One really does showcase how powerful that theme is. All of the cast of actors are really great in their roles. Stephen Dorff is excellent as PK, who plays the teenager really close to halfway throughout the movie, and he embodies so much the confidence and the nobility and the intelligence of PK, as we see him torn between his aspirations in terms of his education and helping those desperate in need, and Stephen Dorff conveys a very rootable and charming lead character. Armin Mueller Stahl as Doc is a charming and very sincere presence as one of the main mentors in PK's life, as is also John Gielgud as the head teacher within PK's school during his life as a teenager, and this is really coming into play in the second half of the movie, and he also brings a sense of gravitas even though it's a smaller role. The main female performance throughout this film is played by Masterson, and she plays Maria, who's a very sweet-natured and she's very attracted to PK. Initially she's very apprehensive when she sees PK helping the students, but over the time she gets to understand the importance of what PK is trying to do, and she aids him and helps up being a very powerful contributor in teaching the education to the African students. So it's a very good performance, I think, from Masterson. As to be expected, of course, the most impactful performance throughout this film is from Morgan Freeman, and when we talk about Morgan Freeman, of course, he is amongst the most revered actors within the entire industry, really grown up on a generation of film goers throughout his career. His greatness for me comes from the fact that he's constantly the stand-up performer despite playing supporting roles. We've seen this so many times throughout his amazing career in movies. We look in particular at the likes of Driving Miss Daisy, for which he won his first Oscar award, Shawshank Redemption, Glory, Seven, $1 Million Baby, Unforgiven, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. All of these movies really benefit so much for his stern, statement-like presence, and he really elevated those films, and I think they would have been far lesser movies if he wasn't involved in them. And in The Power of One, as Gale Pete, he really is such an engaging presence. I love all of the scenes where he's training PK, teaching him how to fight, but also explaining to him all the morals and ethics that are very useful when growing up, first with the head and then with the heart. And we really get to empathise with Gale Pete, as he is one of the main figures who suffers most from the brutalities of the prison treatment overall, and these again are very difficult scenes to watch, and Gale Pete is really the heartbeat, I think, of this movie, and it once again emphasises such a masterful performance from Morgan Freeman. And the other most incredible element to this amazing film is the outstanding musical score from who else but Hams Zimmer, of course. Now, I've mentioned before in so many other film reviews that he is really amongst the truly elite all-time great movie composers, and he is probably the top movie composer in modern movies today. And we can look at so many of his incredible scores throughout his amazing career when we look at, of course, the likes of The Lion King, Gladiator, The Last Samurai, The Thin Red Line, Inception, and of course the Dark Knight trilogy. We could really go on and on about his amazing musical scores, but controversially, for me, The Power of One might just be his best musical score that he's ever done. Full of those typical euphoric choruses and beats, African tones that we've become so distinctive throughout his work. It really creates so much power and emotion and feeling within this movie, and I really think it's the most epic musical score that he's done, and I think he should have really got an Oscar for his amazing work throughout this film. The film would have been far lesser in terms of its impact if it wasn't for Hams Zimmer's musical score. So many great sequences where his music is accompanying to making his film overall so amazing, and again, just another truly amazing musical score from Hams Zimmer in this movie. So if I had to give an overall score for The Power of One, it would be a 9.5 out of 10. Now, when we look at the overall release of The Power of One, on a budget of 18 million, it sadly only managed to gross 2.8 million. Now, I think some of the primary reasons for that is that at the time of release, we had very much of a batch of movies that had covered all of the issues within South Africa and the apartheid issues at the time. So I think Power of One really struggled to stand out, as with so many other movies did at the same time. Also, the fact that when on its release, it did receive some criticism because many critics felt that it was playing into that typical Hollywood white saviour type of narrative that we've seen throughout so many films. Now, I don't agree to that sentiment, but many critics felt that it was a bit too over the top in terms of having the one white character being able to make such a difference to the black characters overall. So it did feel some criticism on its release. Also, I think the lack of a big movie star, as so often is the case throughout these movies, really helps this movie to be more successful at the box office. So All of the actors are very accomplished, of course, but because they weren't big box office A-listers, I think that also worked against The Power of One, and maybe that's why it wasn't so successful at the box office, which is a shame because, as I said before, this is a very special film. It's a very important film, very powerful and compelling, and I truly believe if you watch this film, you will feel the same as what I do about it overall. So those are my thoughts and feelings and review of The Power of One. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you've already seen the movie, let me know how you feel about it in the comments. Do you think it's as great as what I'm making it out to be, or do you think it maybe is overrated and there are other films that are superior of its type? If you've yet to see the film, then I really recommend that you should, and once you've seen it, come back to this review and let me know what you think in the comments below of how great of a movie do you think it is overall. Please also hit those like and subscription and notification buttons so as to also provide you with more high quality content and reviews like this in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves, stay at safe distances, and I will see you very, very soon.